Hey there, book lovers. I'm Haley,
And I'm McCayleigh. Welcome to Two Chicks and a Plot Twist.
the official podcast for the Facebook group All Things Book Related.
We're two besties who are here to share our love for unforgettable characters, unpredictable storylines, and the books we just can't put down.
From our all time favorites to the latest releases, we're bringing you deep dives, hot takes, and maybe a little friendly disagreement.
So grab your favorite read and let's get ready for some bookish fun. You're not going to want to miss this exclusive interview with Evie Woods. But dude, your cat scratched you
I know.
right before our very first episode.
2 hours before, I'm just sitting in my bed trying to do my homework. There's a window above our bed, and our cat Ginny was sitting on it, and I guess like a bird scared her, and she jumped on my face, and I'm screaming, so that probably made it worse. And she scratched me here, like under my eye. So Edgar, my boyfriend, had to put cream on it, antibiotic cream. So I'm sitting in bed and it's like my face is throbbing. So I'm like, I have to go to the emergency room right now.
Oh my God.
So I go and they wanted to do stitches to the one under my eye, and I start crying. I was like, please don't, please don't. I'm so scared. So they glued it, and I was like, I said, how long is this going to take? I have a podcast to record.
Did you really tell them that?
Oh my God. I was like, girls, I gotta go. I have somewhere to be.
Dude.
But it's so good to see you.
I know. Oh my God,
it feels like it's been forever, but I'm like, I just saw you a couple weeks ago. I was used to not seeing you every week, and then I saw you and I was like,
I know.
I miss them.
I know. And then I think it helps that we've been texting like almost every day, like leading up to the podcast. We're like, oh, hey, this idea or this idea. And just constant.
Right.
All right. So, Haley, let everyone know what you're all about.
Okay. So, I am definitely a romantasy girl. I read, obviously, Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, all that good stuff. So when I'm not here on the pod, I do have a bookstagram that I am on every single day. It's Haley's.books. I also am the admin of the Facebook group, All Things Book Related. So I talk about books all day, every day. I love repping indie authors and just keeping it real with some fun reviews and random thoughts. Basically, if there's like dragons, vampires, anything fantasy, magic, I'm there. I'm in. That's me.
Yes, and I agree wholeheartedly. The only reason I think I'm into so much romantic fantasy is because of your you like reeled me in hardcore, like especially just stalking your Goodreads all the time. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
I've told you before, I literally just look at your like what you've rated on Goodreads and I'm like, oh, let me add that to my TBR. Oh, she gave that a 2-star. I'm not gonna read that one then. Like I just take your reviews to heart. So that is
Aw,
that's
so nice.
yes, you do a good job at that. So don't ever let anyone else tell you otherwise. Keep up the good reviews that you keep doing. I love them all. But anyways, a little quick intro about me. My name is McCayleigh. I'm a Texas-based author. I'm an audiobook narrator and voice actor. I love strong female leads and like I was saying, romantic fantasy also. You can never go wrong with a good plot twist. And on the podcast, we're here. I get to chat with my amazing co-host, Haley, and we're going to dive into all the latest book trends and explore new authors and just bring you all things bookish. So I'm very excited for you to join us. I do have a debut novel releasing on November 20th. It's titled Isle of Beasts and Shadows, and look at you. Oh my God. Thank you for having that prepared to show
Everyone, look
oh
at
my God, she's
cover.
so beautiful. Yeah, that's like probably like the very earliest cover of it before all the extra editing went in.
It was so I got to be one of the first people McCayleigh gave the physical copy to.
Yeah, and you're the first person to leave me a review.
Yes, I felt so special.
Yes, thank you again.
Guys,
Oh,
definitely check it out if you're into that sort of fantasy with like a little bit of romance in it. It's so cool and interesting. So definitely go to Goodreads or Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
yes.
Check it out. It's so good.
Yes, I'm at Walmart. Like your local bookstore will
Yes.
have my book. I'm sure they'll let you pre-order it too if you want to support local. So,
Yes.
uh, okay. Well, anyways, here's some like really cute fun facts about us. What's your favorite series and everything?
It's hard to say specific books. So definitely series for me. Throne of Glass, obviously. I think we're both
Yeah.
Throne of Glass girls.
I
I
was like,
love
when
love
are
Throne of
we
Glass.
when are we gonna argue on this podcast? I feel like it's gonna be a lot of us just fangirling over the same
We're
exact things.
we're just like copy paste with this.
Yeah.
Well, no, here's one. McCayleigh has not read Harry Potter. That's one
Oh,
of my favorite series. There's a thing right there. Have you seen the movies though?
I I've seen the movies.
Okay, good.
Yes, but I've like I've never watched all of them. Like it in order to like the last time I tried to have a marathon, we just didn't get to the last movie
Oh my
and
gosh.
I can't tell you what happens in the movies. Like I'm actually focusing and I'm trying to watch Harry Potter. I'm a Pirates of the Caribbean girly. If there were books on Pirates of the Caribbean, that is my Harry Potter. I was telling another friend that the other day.
I've
Like, well,
never
give me
watched them.
there are two types of people in this world because the friend I was telling that to, she's a Harry Potter girly too. And I when I said, "No, Pirates of the Caribbean is my jam," she was like, "Oh, I've never watched it."
Me
Dude,
either.
dude, it's like you're either one or the other, you can't be both. Like, I don't know what it is. Ugh. But anyways, continue. What's your that's my
So,
rant.
Throne of Glass, Harry Potter, and Caraval. I've seen people say it a couple different ways, but I say Caraval. That series really got me back into reading. I kind of went when I first started college, I went like on a 2 year, I did it where I didn't read anything at all other than like my textbooks just because couldn't do it. I couldn't make myself do it. So when I first saw the book and I saw the cover, I was like, oh, this looks so good. Like, I need to read this. So I read the series and I was like, wow. So it really started from there snowballing to where now I read like so many books now.
Yeah. You're like on I checked before this. It was like 50 something. Like book number 50 something. And I know
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, we're almost like at the same number. Because like just this year anyway, like it was book 50 something. And so was mine. I think it's like
What was your
55.
reading goal?
Like, I didn't know what to put because this was the first year I had gotten back into reading.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, what's the normal number? Like, what do I even aim for? Well, anyways, I think at first I set it at 10 and then I had changed it to 25. Well, I'm at like 55 now. So like, what do I do? Do I just keep changing the number as I'm going up? Like, let me try to get through this. But so that's where we're at for the year. Never in my life would I've ever thought that I'd read so many books. But
Right.
ACOTAR, like for me, that reeled me in probably
Yeah.
just like the rest of the book talk community. And then also like Throne of Glass is definitely one of my favorite series. And then I put down Fourth Wing because I was like, oh, that's a lot of action. Like I've never been
Yeah.
a dragons girl, but I mean, maybe this like new era of me that's into like reading is like, oh, wait, dragons? Okay.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so yeah, definitely that. But with all that being said, what are your favorite tropes that come out of all those series?
I basically only read one. I only read enemies to lovers. That's it.
It just never gets old.
I don't read anything else.
Oh my God.
I don't know why. It's just well, every romantic book I feel like is enemies to lovers, and that's basically
Yeah.
all I read. So
Yeah, I feel like you can never go wrong with enemies to lovers, and that's like it is one of my favorites too. And then I like the touch her and die aspect. Like, you got your
yes.
super protective mans over here,
Mhm.
but is there any that you like absolutely despise? Like you won't
Okay, this
read?
was in Fourth Wing, the miscommunication trope.
Yeah.
I hated that so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the miscommunication trope or like the pregnancy trope,
Oh, yeah. Ooh,
like in
yeah.
ACOTAR when
Mm-hmm.
Feyre got pregnant, I was like, oh,
Yeah, I
really?
agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, I don't think I have anything different to say because I'm like, yeah, I think I would pick the same ones.
Do
Man, well,
you want to talk about how we became friends?
yes. Oh my God. So, uh, I was a homebody. I was a hermit. Okay, guys. I had no friends. And then on Facebook one day I see someone post, "Hey, I have a book club and we meet on Wednesdays or whatever." And I was like, "Okay, I'll just show up." And so I do. And here Haley is in her little book club that she had been going to for like what? This was
Like
like maybe her third time.
twice? Yeah, probably the second or third time.
Yeah,
You did not
so
miss much.
no, like one of our friends, like that's where she announced that she was pregnant. And so
Oh
like,
yeah, were you
yeah.
there? Like McCayleigh barely knew this girl. If you're watching right now,
Love you, Paige.
we love you, Paige. McCayleigh barely knew, and she was like, "I'm pregnant," and Michaela was like, "What?"
I
I don't
know.
even. Michaela was like, "What's your name?"
No, she walked in and said, "I'm pregnant, guys." And like I was like, is that a good thing? Like congrats or like are we like no, not congrats. Like, oh, I'm sorry. But it was congrats. We love, baby Nora. She's the cutest little angel. You haven't got to see
Yes,
her yet. Oh,
I
she's the cutest
know.
little thing. We definitely bonded over our love of books and fantasy and romance. And we just recently went to the Texas Renaissance Festival. So
Yes.
that was fun.
And what's the
Yeah.
sad thing is that we were doing book club for so long and
Oh,
I moved. That's why we're not doing this in person. I
yeah.
live 7 or 8 hours away now.
Yeah. She moved
I
away.
know. The book that we're talking about for this first podcast, it's called The Lost Bookshop and it's by Evie Woods. And this was the book club read for the Facebook group, All Things Book Related. And it was so good.
And also, like, there's a specific space to join the virtual book club for the book that we've read. It's really great. It's just a good community. There's no reason not to join it. So
Thank
definitely,
you.
definitely get into that. The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. Um, Here's the book summary. It's a story filled with magic, love, and the power of books. The narrative intertwines the lives of two women across different time periods, each finding solace, adventure, and self discovery through the shop's enchanting influence. As the characters are drawn together by the allure of lost and forgotten stories, the novel explores themes of healing, second chances, and the enduring connection between books and human spirit. I liked this book and it weaves together like two different time periods and you meet three different main characters and you learn a lot based on their different point of views. But
Right.
there's a lot went on in this book. So go ahead, Haley.
So I'm not gonna give y'all my full on essay like book review because if you've seen my book reviews, I basically do them like essays. So if you want to read it, it's on my Goodreads. But I'll kind of give y'all a more casual breakdown of it. So The Lost Bookshop, this is probably one of my favorite, it's got to be my top 10 favorite books I've ever read. And it just had everything I could ask for in the book. It had all the ingredients to be great. It was just heartfelt, enchanting. It's just full love for books themselves. From the first page, I was drawn to its cozy, magical world and completely hooked by the way the story unfolded. Probably my favorite thing about this book was the different point of views. I like hearing from everyone else, and it was interesting to see the connections that were being made across, this different time period between, people figuring out how they're connected, intertwined to one another. Um, and those different point of views really have such you become more emotionally connected to each character also. So definitely check this book out if you're a fan of second chances, literary treasures, and a bit of magic. It's definitely a must read. This is a type of book that just wraps you up in a warm hug and makes you want to keep turning the page late into the night. It's definitely a book that I'm going to be recommending to everyone.
I have her whole review in front of me, guys. She's not kidding. It really is an essay, but she makes the best reviews, like I was saying earlier. If you don't know what to read, just follow Haley on Instagram, Goodreads, whatever. She posts everything on any social media platform she has. So you will not be lost. But
Yes.
as for my review, books like these, when as I listen to my most of my books, so especially the audiobooks, when the narrator is British or has an accent that is, typically not like an American accent, I get scared. And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's going to be smart. Like this book is going to be too smart for me to understand." And that's my immediate reaction, and I shouldn't think that way, but I do. So I was like immediately worried. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm going to have to like really focus." And but I mean, as the story like went on, I was very impressed with how the writing was like easy to understand. And she wasn't trying to like scare the readers away with big words and like just trying to make the book lengthy and stuff. Um, but man, these characters, I was frustrated in some parts of this book, like for them. I'm like, man, I want to like fight for you and hit this guy for you. And it just really made you feel like you were part of their journey and you understood like why they did the things they did. And I haven't seen it done before either. So like this is really fresh for me and I really did enjoy it. But
Mhm.
yeah. Anyways,
This
yeah, go ahead.
it makes you think about how
Mhm.
women especially were treated,
Oh, yeah.
in the early 1900s, and I just cried. I did not expect to cry while reading this book, but it just made me feel so emotional thinking, okay, women back in this day and age, they had supposedly all these rights. Well, no, not really. Once you get down into it, like a story like this presents how a woman's life in that day and age was actually like,
Yeah.
and the character Opaline, she was institutionalized wrongly by her brother, and the doctor there was being paid off. All these other women were there. Some of them, sure, they may have been there with good reasoning, but most of them, I would say, were there because one of them said that she was there because she was too emotional. Emotional. How is that a thing?
I
You
know.
could say I'm too emotional. I cry over everything.
Yeah.
Please don't
Mhm.
institutionalize me.
God, no, like I love to romanticize the 20s so much, like in my brain. I'm like, oh, I would love to live in that, vintage, what's vintage to us now in that era. But, it was a man's world. Like, women didn't have the right to vote for these things. Like, I mean, our election
Right.
just happened. Like, there's a huge shift. The way these characters handled it too. Like, and not even Opaline, but Martha too. Like with domestic abuse, it's so
And
real,
Martha was in
so
this
real.
day and age.
Yes.
Martha wasn't
She
in, the
she wasn't
1900s. She
in the
was here.
20s.
Yeah.
Right.
And she was also being treated horribly. And it just made me feel so sad. The author of The Lost Bookshop, Evie Woods, so graciously allowed me to send her questions, and she sent us voice notes. So we have them all here. So whatever questions we had for her, we'll let y'all know. So one of the big questions was about Madame Bowden,
Mhm.
kind of what she meant in the book. Evie is gonna come in and talk about that for y'all. So once
Yes.
we put it all in, but
Yes.
so thankful for Evie. I didn't even think to message her. She actually followed my Instagram, and I was like, "Oh my God, McCayleigh, Evie just
Yeah.
followed me. Evie just followed me. How? What do I
She's
do?"
like, "Guess what?" I'm like, "No way." So that was
Um,
super exciting.
Yeah, it was I just best feeling ever when an author
Yes.
responds back to you after you loved reading their book because it feels like you're talking to a celebrity.
Yes, it
I'm like,
does.
oh,
Back to the book. Um, let's discuss like Opaline's love of books. Like that guides her through life.
mhm.
And as a reader, let's take that back. What do books mean to us? And how have they impacted our lives? You want to start?
Yeah. I mean, books. have impacted me in so many beautiful ways. I've just recently wrote my reflection page of being in college because I'm graduating soon in the spring. So I
Yay!
wrote my reflection actually on my love of books and what they actually mean to
Oh,
me. I
really?
know,
Oh,
yes. It
I
was
love that. That
it
is
was
so
so
amazing.
emotional and amazing. I've been reading, ever since I was a child. My dad really got me hooked on Harry Potter. And like I said at the beginning, once I started college, I kind of took a 2-year hiatus on books. Just got back, maybe 2.5 years ago. So books are just more than stories to me. They are journeys that take me to new worlds. They're kind of my stress reliever for the end of the day. Um, I take a little bit of characters that I read and hold them with me. Like with, for example, Aelin from Throne of Glass. I carry her with me every day. I think about her every day. So you know, I carry books with me all the time. Books really have given me a sense of community, like the book club where I met McCayleigh on Instagram, in my Facebook group. I love being able to talk to other close, like minded readers. Um, they've just really helped me build meaningful relationships, and they've just shaped my journey in so many amazing ways.
Oh, I love that. Ah, that was so beautiful. I don't feel like my like impact, impactedness of books is going to be that extravagant, but I absolutely love that. But for me, I always did like books, growing up, and I would check them out at our little school library, but I had never been as immersed in them as I am now. So it was like a new like revelation for me or something when I discovered reading. And I think what really helped is actually, being at book clubs and then all that extra motivation to read. And now I have FOMO. So now I'm like, wait, you read that book and you're going to talk about it? Wait, let me, join in on this. So then you're like forced to read.
The strange cracks in the basement, which grow into branches, are quite interesting and symbolic. What do they mean to us? So, if you want to go first, McKaylee.
Yeah. So I thought that maybe the bookshop sensed that she was kind of in like a dark place and she needed a sign saying, "Hey, you're not alone. Like, check out these books and,
Yeah,
read them." And I think it was really helpful after, her husband was like, eh, kind of offed, unalived, which I would like to hear more on that. I'm like,
right,
so how did he die if she
right.
wasn't real? Did Martha kill him? Like,
Yeah,
or was it really just the wind, or
right.
but anyways, that's my take. What is yours?
So, I agree. They are, those branches are pretty symbolic. For me, I felt like they were there to not only catch Martha's attention, but to symbolize the changes and the growth
Mhm.
that was going on with Martha. The change of her leaving her husband, of her meeting and falling in love with Henry, her husband dying, everything like that. So
Yeah,
definitely thought that it symbolized how Martha was kind of becoming her own independent woman.
I like that. No, that's awesome. All right. And then for our next question, how did the book provoke any emotional responses from us? And then which scenes stood out in terms of their impact? So what
So
about
I,
you?
I know I kind of touched at this a little bit,
Yeah.
but a scene that made me feel so emotional and I just cried reading basically the whole chapter
Oh,
was when Opaline went to the St. Agnes institution where her brother forced her to become institutionalized. And she was trying to prove to this doctor that she's perfectly sane and she wasn't getting listened to by anyone there. She was completely powerless and she had no control over her own destiny. When I was reading this part, I just had to kind of close the book because I was becoming
yeah.
so emotional, kind of step away for the rest of the day and take it, like look at it again the next day because I was
Mhm.
so angry and sad. It was awful. It was just so powerful. And again, it made readers think about all the women who actually did have to go through these, who actually did have to become forced to become institutionalized. It was awful.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of, like, just not hearing women in this book and just, like, men controlling women.
Right.
But something else that, like, really bothered me was they took her baby away. They took Opaline's baby away,
Yes.
like, after she gave birth to this baby. They also did not take her to the hospital. They just let her go into labor, and they were like, "Oh, you're fine, you know? You can just do
Right.
it here." And she's asking to be taken to the hospital. Well, anyways, she gives birth to the baby, and they tell her, "Oh, it came out. The baby wasn't breathing." And that was that. They didn't let her hold the baby, see the baby, anything, they just immediately took it away, and, by the end of the book, we learn what happened, but, like, how awful, and it really sucks, but I'm glad all of this is, like, being written into existence and reminding us that it's just not going away, like, it exists, and it's bringing awareness to that, so definitely very impactful in that, department, and that will sit with me for a very, very long time. Oh, it's so
Right.
maddening, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I agree. It definitely kind of opened our eyes as readers to all of these issues that happened back then and issues that are still happening to this day, with Martha and her abusive husband. It
Mhm.
makes you think about all the women that are out there now that don't say anything,
Right,
or
no,
who are too scared to say anything.
and it's
Who
crazy the lengths Opaline took to, like, leave her family because her family just kinda wanted to sell her off to the highest bidder, like, "Go get married, that's your job," and she was like, "No, I want something more out of my life," and she actually got up, left, made something of herself. Her brother got mad at her for it, for being the successful woman, is what I feel. He took whatever, took over the bookshop, everything was in his name now after she was institutionalized. That just it just makes me so mad, and she couldn't do anything about it because,
And I
men
mean
in the
it
20s,
yeah,
yeah.
and it wasn't just her brother who was awful to her.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name, her baby's dad, whatever his name was, when he found out that Opaline had that manuscript and he was like,
Ooh,
"Oh,
yeah.
we," and she said, "We, this is my thing." He
Yes.
started becoming very angry and hostile towards her
Ugh,
and called her all these names and just left.
mm,
So the men in this book made me want to just
yeah.
die.
But, I mean, it's realistic too, which sucks. It sucks so much, but I'm glad she wrote it.
Right.
It's stuff like this that also, like, it hits, like, a deep spot within you, and it
Right.
makes you wanna keep reading too,
Yeah.
because, I mean, it really happened. But, as for that, here's the rest of our interview with Evie Woods.
Yes. It
So
was so fun getting to sit down and talk with Evie. It was such an amazing experience that I had, and I will probably carry this with me for the rest of my life. Just getting to chat with her, even though it was over the phone, it still was, pretty amazing. So, Evie, how did your journey begin as an author?
It really was a passion that grew over time. I first started writing when I was living in Montreal. I was very homesick and I used to go to the library a lot. And I read, or rather, I reread all of Maeve Binchy's books. And the problem with Maeve Binchy is that she makes it look so easy. And I thought to myself, this is really something that I want to try. And I sat down and wrote maybe about 3 chapters of a book that was absolutely terrible. And I really thought, okay, I don't know if I can do this. So there were a lot of false starts, but I was kind of bitten by the bug by then. So when I came back to Ireland, that's when I really began writing. And in 2011, I think I started writing my first self published book, which was The Heirloom.
Evie, what was it that really inspired you to write the book, The Lost Bookshop?
I wrote The Lost Bookshop during lockdown and I started researching, as you do when you're a writer, uh, ghost buildings. I just found it so fascinating that there could be like imprints of older buildings on the side of newer buildings, or buildings hidden within buildings. I remember reading an article about an apartment in New York, and they broke through a wall and found a whole new apartment. So that idea of something being hidden or lost really appealed to me. And once I thought of the bookshop idea, it just took off from there.
Evie, the bookshop itself is almost a character in its own story. So, what do you think makes bookshops and bookstores such a magical place for people?
I think everybody, well, most people who love books feel very emotionally connected to bookshops. Um, I think they're the one place in the world that you can walk into and get lost in other worlds. So it is really magical. And so I think people have, yeah, a strong connection to bookshops already. And I think, yeah, it's just the possibilities are endless when you base your story in a bookshop.
As you were writing The Lost Bookshop, were there any scenes or stories there that really surprised you as you were writing them?
Yes, this can happen a lot. But one of the biggest plot twists that totally surprised me, I won't say what it is, I don't want to spoil it for people, but it comes at the end, and it's when a character is revealed as having a connection to one of the other main characters. And I had not planned for that. I had written it the way that it was. And then at the end, I remember the day so vividly. It just came to me. I just thought, oh my gosh, like that person could be, And I was so excited about it because I never saw it coming. And it cracks me up when I read reviews, which I shouldn't do, but the odd time I do. And people say, oh, I saw the twist coming from a mile off. And I'm like, oh, okay, because I didn't. And I wrote it.
Evie, do you have any advice for any aspiring authors out there?
Yes, absolutely. My main piece of advice would be never give up, unless of course you don't want to write anymore. That's a different story. But yeah, never give up and keep trying. It took me 10 years before I was traditionally published. So I self-published. There are so many different routes to publishing now. There's more opportunities than there ever were. So even if you get rejection, please don't take it as I shouldn't be a writer, because that's what I did. And back in 2008, I got a rejection, and I thought that was the end for me. But I came back. So yeah, just take rejection as information and just keep getting better at what you're doing, but never give up, keep going. It's so worth it.
Evie, in an allegorical sense, what does Madame Bowden mean to you?
I'm so glad you asked about Madame Bowden, because she is the character I get asked about the most. And when I was writing this book, I really didn't realize that she was going to become everybody's favorite. And if I had have done, I would have written more dialogue for her. But in an allegorical sense, first of all, she, for me, is the human embodiment of the shop. And I suppose in an allegorical sense, she is like, the wise crone, and she's sort of guiding Martha towards her inheritance. But she's not, a total fairy godmother. I mean, she does challenge everybody, and she has a bit of attitude, which I love about her. So, yeah.
And then finally, Evie, I do want to ask, is there anything that you're currently working on that you can share with all of us?
Yes, I have just finished the edits for my next book, The Mysterious Bakery on Rue de Paris, and that's coming out in March. And this is actually a new edition of a previously self-published book, so I'm really excited about that coming out because we've gone a little bit deeper with the story. So I can't wait for people to read that. It's set in a bakery in a small town outside Paris, and so I hope people will love it. And also, I'm excited about that because there will be a little teaser for my new novel, which I'm not even really sure of the title yet. We haven't decided on anything, so I can't say. But there's going to be a little teaser of the first few chapters of that book. So I'm very excited about this coming out. Finally, I just want to thank you, Two Chicks and a Plot Twist. What a great name. And thank you so much for choosing the Lost Bookshop as your first ever book review, and I really wish you every success with this podcast. Can't wait to hear it.
We just wanted to thank y'all so much for taking the time to sit down and listen to us kind of gab about one of our favorite books now, and getting a chance to kind of meet us. And just, we're so grateful for everybody. And before we go, we obviously wanted to give, another shout out to Evie Woods for allowing us to sit down and talk to her. So grateful for the opportunity. And we also wanted to let you know, if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast, definitely check out our Instagram and Facebook page at 2 Chicks and a Plot Twist. There's a sign-up form there in our link tree down at the bottom. There's also a place down there where you can contact us, where you can send us a little email. So if you want to do that. If you also want to check out our personal Instagrams, mine is Haley's.books.
And you can follow me on Instagram at McCayleigh Daniels. And I did say I am a Texas-based author, and I am just now releasing my Isle of Beasts and Shadows debut novel. It's a fantasy romance. It releases on November 20th, and pre-orders are available now.
Make sure to join us for our next episode, guys. It's going to release on Thanksgiving Day. Woo! So we are going to discuss everything we're grateful for when it comes down to books. And we're going to be talking about McCayleigh's book, Isle of Beasts and Shadows. Make sure you get it, because we're going to be talking about it.
Yeah, you're not going to want to miss it. And then from there on out, you can expect a podcast episode from us every other Thursday. So see you next time, guys. Thanks for tuning in to our very first episode. Y'all have a good one.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Stay until the end of the episode to get an exclusive sneak peek into Isle of Beasts and Shadows, releasing on November 20th. Just as he made his way towards the window, Arella's sudden charge caught him off guard. With a swift motion, she propelled both of them through the shattered window, their forms tumbling onto the rooftop of the adjacent building. The Soul Eater, with his menacing golden eyes gleaming in the darkness, swiftly intercepted the dual-bladed axe aimed directly at his face. The clash of metal rang out in the air's stillness, echoing through the ancient village as the battle between light and darkness unfolded under the watchful gaze of the gloomy sky above. "Who are you?" Arella said, her voice trembling in the struggle as she looked into Sirius's piercing eyes. "Sirius," spoke the Soul Eater in a voice that sent shivers down her spine as he wrapped his hand around her throat. With a swift motion, he flung her across the roof. Yet to his surprise, she pulled him along in her desperate attempt to break free. As they landed in an unexpected entanglement, Sirius found himself sprawled on top of her, his arms outstretched to steady their fall. Arella's mind raced with confusion and fear. What had transpired to lead them to this precarious moment? It felt like just moments ago when they were peacefully scouting a deserted village, only to be thrown into this chaotic encounter. With no escape in sight, she locked eyes with Sirius, her cheeks flushing with a mix of emotions she couldn't comprehend. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, she mustered the courage to push the assailant away, her movements a mix of fear and determination. As she regained her footing on the precarious rooftop, Arella's eyes darted around, taking in the grim reality of the undead soldier wreaking havoc on Duron. Despite his valiant efforts, Duron's armor was no match for the relentless onslaught. The other soldiers stood frozen in fear, unable to muster the courage to intervene. A pang of worry shot through Arella as she spotted Jonathan lying motionless on the ground, a reminder of the dire circumstances they were facing. The urgent need to help him tugged at Arella's consciousness, yet she grappled with her own internal turmoil. Amidst the chaos and danger that surrounded her, she knew that finding a way out of this predicament would require all the strength and resilience she could muster. She turned around slowly, her heart thudding in her chest as she braced herself for what she thought would be a flash of silver hair charging at her. However, to her surprise, she found him standing still, his gaze fixed upon her from a distance. "What are you? What do you want from us?" Her fingers tightened around Dawnbreaker, her knuckles turning white with tension. Despite her efforts, her face remained flushed, betraying the intensity of the moment. Questions swirled in her mind.
What transpired between them? She attempted to decipher his intentions, his thoughts, but his inscrutable expression offered no clues. Yet, amidst the blankness, his eyes stood out, those familiar yellow eyes capable of penetrating through the toughest exterior with a mere glance. Arella's mind raced with thoughts. Uncertain of his motives, she knew she couldn't allow whatever he planned to come to fruition. With one of their comrades already fallen and more at risk, she lunged towards him once more, poised for a last strike with Dawnbreaker. Defiance surged through her as she readied herself. She couldn't afford to let him escape. Souls. She heard him whisper, the word barely audible, or so she thought she heard before he leaped off the building, narrowly avoiding her attack.
That was Isle of Beasts and Shadows by McCayleigh Daniels. Pre-order your copy today.